Yeah. Yep.
Let me give you a brief about Udaan. Udaan is a platform which tries to bring in people and ask them to share their experiences and expertise. Every time we try to bring in people from different avenues of life and ask them to share their experience. So it's sort of a platform, something like TED Talk. And today we have a topic on mental health, and we have Vishwa and Rushika joining in. So let me tell you how the idea of mental health came in. I was in conversation with Vishwa's cousin actually, and we were discussing of which topic next to bring in and all. And he was like, "Okay, after this, what happened with Sushant Singh Rajput? Things have mental health has all of a sudden come into limelight, and people are talking about it." And he was like, "Why don't Udaan conduct a webinar on this?" And I was like, "Great idea." And then we spoke and we came up with this idea. So we have Vishwa Modi and Rushika Mehta. Let me give you a brief introduction about two of them. Vishwa Modi is a clinical psychologist. She did a master's from Mithibai College, and she has been practicing this since last 3 years. She has her own practice called as Wellness Butterfly, and you can find her over Instagram sharing her thoughts and ideas on this. So Rushika Mehta just came to India yesterday.
Yeah.
She had a roller coaster ride flying down to India, I can say. In this COVID scenario, she came down from US, quarantined, and then came home. So Rushika,
Right.
first of all, welcome to India. And giving a brief introduction about her, even she did a bachelor's from India, Mithibai College again. Then she moved to US, and then she did a master's. Interesting. She did a master's in industrial organization. So where we usually talk about personal stress and all, she deals with larger stress happening in corporate culture. Uh, let's not waste time. I would like to hand the platform to them. Before that, let me just share their Instagram ID. This is Rusha Mehta and Wellness Butterfly. So after this webinar, if at all you have any questions on this, you can connect to them. We are very active on Instagram. They are open sharing their thoughts, and all yours. Vishwa, why don't you start introducing yourself about this topic, and then Rishika, why don't you continue on the same lines?
So hi, hello to everyone who is, here. Some faces are very familiar, and then there are some which we'll all get to know each other today. Um, so I think, since the time the lockdown has started, or I can say since the time this entire scenario about the virus, adapting to the new normal, I think feelings of anxiety, hopelessness, it's like a sudden shift, right? I mean, we had such fixed routines, and now we're at home, oscillating between housework and office work, where there are like 10 people coming in the middle and saying, do this, do that, and we are eventually embarrassed, like, oh my God, I'm working right now. Can you just leave me alone? Um, so I think it's not only just the virus, but I think, our lifestyle, um, the way we used to maybe think, the way we used to give ourselves that time, I think the lockdown has actually forced us to do that. Uh, and a whole lot of emotions, unpleasant emotions have come to light. So, something like pain or something like guilt that we would consciously avoid or neglect is something that we are forced to now stay with. And stats show that there is a 20% increase in mental health concern in the last 4 months. Just asking everyone who is a part over here right now, since we are a small group, guys, please feel free to, start your videos or unmute yourself and answer this. How many times have you reached out to someone, or how many times has someone reached out to you? Um, and spoken about how horrible they are feeling or how anxious they are feeling about the entire scenario. Anyone who would like to just share their experience over the last 4 months?
Hey Vishwa, I guess this
Oh,
question answer round we'll move later on.
Okay,
Maybe
okay,
let's
sure.
just discuss more about the topic right now, so
Sure.
that yeah.
Okay. Thanks for pointing that. But yes, I think personally also there has been times when I've had difficulty coping with my day-to-day routine. Um, and I think today let's talk more about this, and not just from an individual perspective, but I think Rushika is going to definitely give us more insight into how even from the corporate world there is equal amount of stress and pressure that's that people are going through.
Uh, Rishika, why don't you
I,
step in here?
I would definitely say there's a lot of anxiety around to begin with because a lot of companies are not equipped, first of all, to, just design everybody's schedule to work from home. That is the biggest task of us right now, like as human resources or as organizational development agents. We just have to be able to equip everyone. And on top of that, our main priority is to keep everyone motivated. Like make sure the work is getting done within the time frame, or else because a lot of otherwise your money is getting wasted and production is at halt. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges that I saw in my company, is that amongst all this pandemic, there was no way to equip so many people to work from home. And also there was a lot of chaos going around because people did not know how to actually work from home, I would say. Like where to begin with, like how to keep themselves motivated on track, or just generally that was the vibe, I would say.
So, Rishika, you came down here and you were quarantined. So, obviously, we don't want to revolve the talk only about COVID, but just share your brief experience how you came here, how were people mentally at that point of time? You were quarantined in a hotel. Just tell us the entire scenario, how it was.
So I would definitely say people here are a lot more scared than people in United States. I mean, that is very evident from the number of cases also. I mean, it's USA is right now, I don't know, 4 million or 3 million, something I stopped seeing after a point of time. But yeah, I would definitely say that staying alone in the hotel, just traveling during COVID was like a wonderful experience I'll share with, people. I guess it was nothing that I could have expected or prepared for. I mean, we all were scared, like, of obviously not, getting it. And yeah, during my quarantine, I would say people were even scared when we were checking in the hotel. People were even scared to, stand. Like, people were standing miles apart or something when we were checking in the hotel, and the line was so huge. I mean, there was almost a distance of not six, but almost the double. And yeah, I would say everything was happening in such a rush. Nobody really cared about the procedures, but it was just like get it done, go inside the room, nobody talking to anyone, and after 4 days just seeing each other for the COVID test. So I would say it was all very chaotic, and definitely stress was at the peak, if I had to say. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So, let's just start with a basic question. And just one question, simple, is about the career you guys pursued. What are the career opportunities there in this field, and how to go about it and find out what are the options in this career line? Vishwa, do you want to go first?
Yes, I think it's a very diverse field. Right from the three basics that we know of clinical counseling and industrial psychology, I think there are a whole lot of other branches such as forensic psychology, neuropsychology. There is also criminology. There is then there are specializations within clinical psychology where I'm pursuing something in terms of behavioral therapist or a cognitive therapist, and so on and so forth. Sports psychologist, um, career counselor. So I think the list keeps going. Rishika, would you like to? Social psychologist, very important ones. Would you like to add?
So I would say after industrial psychology, you could definitely. So there are three major fields. You could go into human resources, organizational development, or you could do training and development. So human resources would be everything general, like making policies, and organizational development would be something like how to boost the morale of your employee, how to reduce absenteeism, just basically planning how the human as a resource in your company would work the best, I would say. And for training and development, it's basically like conducting seminars on how to become a good manager or soft skills or any skills, basically negotiation. So I would say industrial is all about this. And I just hate that there's a misconception going on that after pursuing IO psychology, you just have to directly go to human resources. I mean, that is not true. There is a lot of other things you can do, and you
Rishika, you have been muted. Can you just unmute yourself, please? Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I didn't realize.
no.
Yeah.
So
So
we got most of the part. We missed you at where you hate the part that people think that after pursuing industrial psychology, you have to work in an industry. And if you want to continue from there.
yep, thank you. So it's just basically, it's not compulsory that after IO, your career will stop at human resources. You can become a business consultant, an independent consultant. You can become an analyst. There's a lot of aspects of it. So yeah, I would say that.
Okay, so that was the career part. Now let's come to the actual topic. When can you say that a person is mentally fit or no? What are the indicators? If I walk across the road, how can I say,
Can
hey,
you
that
please
guy
tell
is?
us where to type that question from?
Yeah, sure. There's a chat box. If you have logged in from your phone, there will be a chat option downside. Just type your question in there. Or towards the end, if you cannot do that, then towards the end, I'll pitch you in and you can ask the question. Yeah. So if I'm walking across the road and I see 10 people, how can I identify how many of them were mentally fit and not fit? What are the indicators? Vishwa?
I think Rishika, would you like to go first?
I think this is more of
We
your turn
cannot
question.
type on the chat box.
Do you want to answer that part? Like,
Uh,
even I didn't
I
get that.
think I think the chat box is disabled. So maybe people may not be able to type.
okay, don't
Inbox is
worry.
disabled.
Oh yeah.
Don't worry. Towards the end, we'll have a question answer round where everybody can pitch in.
So to answer your question, Parth, out of 10 people who are mentally fit and who are not, there's no criteria or there's
Yeah.
nothing like, okay, if you are maybe walking like this, if you're talking like this means you're not mentally fit or you are mentally fit. I think psychology or even I think, any sort of mental health concerns are more internal.
Yeah.
They may have behavioral manifestations, but again, I think, as people, we are really good at covering up. As people, we are really good at portraying that everything is normal, so normalizing mental health. And which is why when we make people believe, right, that we are doing okay, somewhere down the line, I think we also start believing that we are doing okay and avoid or deny our concerns, which tend to affect us even more in the future. Yeah, so there's no overt criteria, and I think to some extent we all somewhere have mental health concerns, right? It's just that concerns exist on a spectrum, and there's nothing like I'm zero, I'm like absolutely fit, or then I'm just absolutely gone. It's more of how everyday life makes us fluctuate on this spectrum, and most of the people have their own coping mechanisms to deal with it. It's just when it starts interfering with your social life, with your professional life, or even in terms of your own me time, I think that's an indication that okay, I need help now.
So on the same line, Rushika, in a corporate setup, when would you say that an employee needs help, or this is the kind of corporate culture that needs to be set up so that there's less stress on your employee? Rushika? Okay, I
Can
guess.
you start? I think I'm having a little bit problem.
No
Yeah.
problem. Yeah, so did you get my question, or I need to come back? I was like,
No, yeah. Can you just
yeah. So the question
say
was, in a
that again?
in a corporate setup, what's the kind of culture you would insist on that your employee does not go through the stress or at? Okay, I guess we lost Rushika. Rushika, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the
Can you
question
hear
is,
me? Yeah.
yeah, I can hear you. In corporate setup, how do you ensure that your employee does not go through the stress, or what are the indicators which helps you identify, okay, this employee is under a lot of stress or he's not mentally fit?
Um, so I would say there are, as Vishwa said before, there are not like really clear indications. I mean, anybody could be going through anything, and people are good at masking it. But I would definitely say, like with your employees, or even having surveys out every 3 months, just or one-on-one having talk with your mentor if something is bothering you. And honestly, I would say this is a lot on the company culture. I mean, if your company culture is not inclusive, you are never going to feel, like you can open up to your mentor or your boss, and you would never be able to share. And I would say just some factors that you can say your employees are, not feeling motivated enough would be just delays in work, and just not showing any enthusiasm in general about new topics, or new projects or something like that, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Just to
Yeah.
add to what Rishika said, I think in the corporate setup it is very important to, I think for the HR personnel or whoever the IO psychologist is, right, to actually, instead of administering just scales and stuff, also to have interaction with smaller groups or even one-on-one kind of interactions, because you get to know a lot more from their non-verbal, um, and again, right, their productivity levels, the
Rather
motivation
than the
levels,
verbal,
as
yeah.
what Rishika said. If you assess that, I think it's really helpful, and it provides a whole lot of data to understand how the employee is doing.
All right. Thank you. So, one simple question. At what point one decides that he needs to see a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist? What stage, if I'm going through some kind of situation, at what stage should I consult one?
That's
uh,
sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
That's an amazing question, and I'm glad you brought it up. Like, honestly, that is always, you would always know the answer. When it's enough and you want to change, and you make the decision that okay, like some things in my life are not going as I've hoped for, and I want to start that change, and I want to start it within myself.
Hmm.
I would say when you would make the decision going to a therapist.
But it's like making a decision itself is very difficult for everybody. It's just a perception that okay, no, I cannot go first. I'm normal. I don't need them. I can handle it. Vishwa, what do you want to say on this?
I think it's important then for family and friends, so whoever you are reaching out to, it's going to be very important for those people to recognize that you need help and guiding you to the right source. Like, as I said, even in the beginning, there's so much stigma surrounding mental health that today, if I'm taking therapy, I will have to hide it from people.
Yeah.
But with that, that question always pops up, and this is something I ask my clients also, that what motivated them to reach out for the initial consultation, because I think that's also courageous. Secondly, there are therapists in the field, or like as professionals, we are here to guide people that, okay, do you need therapy or you don't need therapy, and after talking to them, we can gauge better as to whether they are going to benefit from any therapeutic sessions or not. As Rushika said, that there needs to be some level of insight that I want to change, but again, at times that insight doesn't come from within.
Yeah, and it's not always
Um,
going to be
yeah.
a push alone enough. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And then there are times, before even signing up for the first consultation, I've had people say that I'm trying to get therapy since 2 years. I'm still not able to convince myself. You tell me, how is therapy going to benefit me? Yeah.
Correct.
So, as I think, as a society, as individuals, please feel free to reach out and ask these professionals as to how do you think you can help me better. And trust me, as professionals, we are expecting this question.
Yeah.
Um,
Also,
So,
to,
yeah,
sorry.
continue, Rushika. Sorry, please continue.
So, also to add to it, I would, going with the Sushant Singh Rajput topic, I would definitely say I wish he felt a little bit more included within his workplace, which would be the industry, the Bollywood industry. And I wish, he was just a spectator from outside, but only if some people would have pushed him, or maybe he was taking therapy. Like, I don't want to comment on it, but yeah, definitely, I would say when there is an inclusivity and you feel included, and when you can open up to your friends and your support people who support you, and also they feel that now it's time. I think that's when you should not resist, and you know like just seek therapy, I would say.
So, okay, so this I'm putting this honest question to both of you. What do you recommend? Suppose if I'm going to a trauma, it is best I speak up to my family members, my dear ones, my friend, and make effort that it gets resolved out there, or it's like just go and consult a therapist. What is a better defense line you recommend? Honestly, is it necessary that okay, consult a therapist only, or it's best get resolved within your near and dear ones?
Uh, Honestly, I feel, if I'm feeling low today, I'm feeling low tomorrow, and for a week, I'm just continuously feeling low. It's not that, okay, in a week, I need to reach out to a therapist, right? But during that time, yes, if I'm having suicidal ideations, yes, if I don't feel sleepy, I don't want to eat anything, that's a red flag again that, no, I have to go to a therapist. At least let me speak as to what is happening. Second thing, you mentioned trauma. Um, I think as a word, that's very powerful. And if there is trauma, there is therapy. There is no two way about going to a family member or speaking to a friend, because again, when you say trauma, it's either one incident that has led to you feeling the way you do, or then it is since childhood, right? Repeated
Yeah.
feeling, repeated sense of invalidation. So yes, definitely, I think as people, first our go-to is going to be family and friends and our safe spots, right? After you speak to them, if you still feel like, okay, I don't think this person is even trying to understand me, because what happens in such cases is when you reach out to a friend, there's only so much that you can say, and there is only so much that they can help you with, right? You don't want to reach out to a friend, and every time you meet that friend, you don't want to talk about how you are feeling and how everything is going wrong, because that can
Yeah.
ruin relationships. In
Yeah.
therapy, there is a safe space that we offer, and we are here to listen to you. We are here to not only just listen, but also guide you through that process of wellness, guide you through that process of providing you that resources to cope better in any scenario that you put.
Right.
Yeah. I couldn't have answered it better. I mean, yeah.
All
All
right.
that Vishwa said,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
Okay, so there's one.
Trauma is, yeah. Sorry, go
Rishika,
ahead.
continue, please, please continue.
Yeah, so as she said, like your definition of trauma, and ours would be a little different. But yeah, trauma is something that is really powerful, and somebody giving you um, any wrong advice could also lead to adverse effects. I mean, knowingly or unknowingly. So
And to
Uh,
add
definitely,
to this, I think people have this tendency of moving into advice. नहीं नहीं ये
yeah,
करो वो
very
करो
quickly.
सब ठीक हो जाएगा, and then you're just like, but I don't want to do any of this. Can you just
Yeah,
listen to me?
yeah.
So right, yeah, that's something I would like to add.
so Vishwa, one question has come up, uh, and it's specifically for you.
Beautifully answered. Yeah.
So the question states, when you face past experiences that are not good for you in the present scenario, why does it keep coming up? How to deal with this?
Right. So, past experiences are those, I think, we may not remember situations, but we definitely remember what they made us feel, how they made us think. And it has been so impactful in the past that unless and until firstly it's not resolved, you're not going to get closure on it. How many times, have we ended friendship with someone, or, had an argument or a fight with someone, and unless and until we don't get a closure on that topic, मन को शांति नहीं मिलती है. And trust me, I am one of that person. Unless and until I don't get one closure on that topic, I'm going to keep either messaging them or thinking about how I have felt about that situation. What happens with past experiences is that firstly, it depends on intensity. How intense was the situation? Second, impact of that situation on you. How did it make you think or feel? Were your feelings heard, validated back then? If it's a no, then definitely it is something that needs to move then towards emotional abuse. Using this term very carefully, and emotional abuse is not just, I ask you to shut up. Emotional abuse goes down to something very subtle as, no, I'll do it, I mean, of course, I'm better at it. I can handle it. I can handle the situation better than you. I mean, what is there to cry? These statements are signs of emotional abuse. And when you've gone through some of this, we're so tangled and intertwined in this that we need to untangle one thread at a time. So, any past experiences that we've been through, think of it as mixed color threads,
Uh,
untangling like one thread at a time. So, to answer, I think I did get this question in my personal chat as well.
yeah, there.
Um,
Yeah.
so,
Can you read out the question first, please, Vishwa, since you have it in your personal chat?
no, I think it's the same thing about past experiences affecting present scenarios.
No,
And what's
there's
the
a
one?
follow-up question on that. What
No,
if
I
there's
don't have
no
that
way
chat.
to, so that's what I was giving you. What if there's no way to talk or resolve that matter?
So, in such cases, usually there are non-verbal way of working with this. I use a lot of art, a lot of music, a lot of movement to work towards this journey of closure and healing. Again, this is something to be done in supervision, and not by yourselves. It's not like I'm going to YouTube and I'm going to exercise and now I've got a closure. No, it's a journey which takes time. At times, it can be done in a week. At times, it takes 2 weeks or even years.
Yeah.
So body work, somatic work is something that's very important. And Parth, I think before we move on to the next, there's one question from Drashti. What can one expect from a therapist? How is that person going to help you with your problems? Okay, so the therapist is here to um, not give you solutions, but to assist you in getting those solutions yourself. So I'm not going to say, Acha, Rashti, do ABC. You're going to be fine. But it's more like, okay, come, let's discuss more as to where firstly this is coming from. So all the things that are happening now, why is it happening? Where is it happening from? How is it happening? These are the questions we answer in therapy.
So basically, you are trying to say, you just show us the path. It's up to us how we walk the road from there on.
Well, we walk the road with you,
Yeah.
right? Because when a building is being made, you can't just leave it without scaffolding and bamboos, right? Because it's going to fall.
Okay.
So unless and
Yes.
until that internal resource is not strengthened, we can't let you just
Mm.
work independently.
And I would say it's more like not we show you the path, it's like you enable us to enable you to show you the path. So it's kind of a journey we both are going on. It's just not, yeah. Yeah.
So, one thing I would like to ask, I was reading a book lately, and there was one statement made in that which said that choosing your life partner is more like choosing a therapist for life. Now, let's not get into life partner and all, but let's keep take this on a broader horizon. What about the friends you accompany, your near and dear, and the people in your life you decide to be with? How can you decide, okay, they are very toxic, or one is good for me, not good for me? What are the feelings one can give you, and how can one literally affect your mental health? Rushika, do you want to take this up first?
I would say I am myself still trying to figure that out completely, but I would say there's no certain standard or criteria to understand. But I think as you spend time, the more time you spend, you realize how this person is adding to your life, and that can help you somewhat determine. I would say. Vishwa, do you want to add to it?
I think toxicity has very clear boundaries.
Yeah.
I reach out to a friend and that friend says that, oh no, I don't have the time to listen to you. अरे यार हर बार का है यार, हर बार हम बात करते हैं, यही तरीके से तुम्हें बात करनी है, या you just wanted to talk about this same topic. Can you just let go? Can you forget it? I mean, it's just a phase. How many times have all of us heard this? Yeah, to some
Yeah.
extent, it can help us. But there are times when, if we are going through a difficult path and a friend is telling us all of this, instead of firstly hearing us out as to what we are going through, toxic sign one. Second, ridiculing you in front of people, right? And this is not just for friends, but I think for anyone, any acquaintance, any partner, saying, "Arey yaar, tumse nahi hoga ye. Arey, ek second, can you just give me time to talk?" Right? Putting someone down, not uplifting them, but rather being envious of them, and at the same time, comparing internally that, oh my God, look at her. I mean, what is she wearing? Right? These are subtle signs of toxicity that we are putting out there. Again, it doesn't have to be verbal. It can be as simple as a look towards you, which can be toxic, to right from actually using words that are harsh words, including swear words. Um, so yeah, these would be the primary signs of toxicity. And apart from that, even those people who make you question your own sanity, right? हमने तो प्लान बनाया था, तुम्हें ही नहीं आना है. What can we do about this? Problem is with you, not with us. Something as harsh as this, put very subtly in our day-to-day lives, right? So yeah, these definitely are signs of toxicity.
Okay,
Can
so
you?
Rushika, yeah, come on, add something to this. Yeah.
So I'm just curious as to your last stance when you said something as small as like the problem is with you. Like you cancel plans, we don't make plans and everything. Like what harshness in broader terms are you talking about? Like
So harshness in
so
terms
how you
of,
said you put.
I think harshness in terms of, you know, blaming, making
Okay.
the opposite person feel guilty for what they have done, and not understanding the reason behind it, right?
Yes,
So
yeah. So something like just judging and being toxic in the sense like just assuming something about you.
yeah.
Would you say? Okay. All right, great.
Okay, so one more question. It's like there's a maturity to compartmentalize your life, right? Your personal failure should not affect your professional life. Your professional stress should not affect your personal life. But usually, every human being at some point slips out on that and ends up ruining everything. How one can bring in that maturity that, okay, your personal problem shouldn't slip into your professional life and vice versa? What are the tips for that? Vrishika, go first. Initial
Yeah,
organization.
sure. So this is one of the most important topics in our field, which would be like having a work-life balance. So basically making sure that your work doesn't interfere with your life, regular life, and your regular life doesn't interfere with your work. So it is not as simple as when you come back to home, you've left all the work attention or thoughts just as the at the office, and when you step inside your house, it's all fine and well. No, you'll be carrying all that stress or whatever happened at your workplace along with you to your house as well. The important thing here is to try and find practices that help you separate the two. So it can be something as simply as exercising. It can be something as simple as meditating, or just finding some stress busters to help you, you know, get that stress of the work out, or get that stress in your life out, or just it can be simple things as talking to someone, or yeah, I would say just finding some techniques that help you cope with the stress, and that's how you can achieve a little bit of work life balance. And also maintaining some schedules in your life as to what's more important, and realizing at a certain point of time what is of prime importance, like तुम्हें किसको ज़्यादा importance देना है, and deciding accordingly, I would say. Yeah. Do
Vishwa?
you want to add to it? Yeah.
I think, when we talk about compartmentalizing, if I am at my workplace, before I leave my workplace, okay, let me just take some time to unwind. Let me take some time to, write down about how has my day been, what were some triggering factors at the workplace, and how am I feeling about it. Using that commute time from work to home, instead of, I think, for some people talking to friends, yes, definitely may work. For some people, just spending that me time listening to songs. For some people, just being and being with and being very mindful of your commute or your travel also really helps unwinding. To add to it, now that we are all working from home, where is that compartmentalization? But I would really suggest keep at least one corner dedicated to work, and try working there instead of sitting on your bed or instead of sitting all over the house. And at the same time, when you leave that spot, take 10 minutes to figure out, okay, how has it been? When I step out of this space, or you create like an imaginary boundary for yourself that, okay, once I step out of this particular zone, everything shuts, my laptop shuts. If you have a personal number, I mean your work number, then that shuts, and I'm just going to focus now on giving more family time.
Yeah.
Yeah, or talking to someone from the family if you are close to people at home.
All right, beautifully answered. And probably I'm not a therapist, but one of the finest tip which I have got, maybe I would like to share with public. So one of my directors told me this, that part, your family members don't wait for your problems at home. They wait for you. So go home with a smile, never take your work stress at home. And
Yeah.
same, somebody gave me a tip in personal life that always have things to look forward for. Else you put your boredom pressure on your family members. So
Yeah.
that's it. And an interesting question has come up in from the audience, and the question is: if you are mentally still in a relationship with someone you have already broken up with, what to do? Often it happens so that you are moving on with your life, but you haven't really moved on, and that person doesn't care. Vishwa, this is a personal practice question. Why don't you answer that?
Yeah. Okay, so if you're mentally still in a relationship with someone you've broken up with, what to do? Any breakup, right? It is, and by relationship over here, I'm gonna like keep it a bit broad in terms of friendship, in terms of even romantic relationships, right? When we um, break up with someone, it's definitely difficult. It's a hard moment, and in those moments, acknowledging how you're feeling rather than trying to uh, deny those feelings of hurt and pain and discomfort that you're experiencing. Instead, try sitting with that discomfort. Number one. Second thing, what about it do you miss? Do you miss the person? Do you miss the time spent with the person? Do you miss that support system in your life? What other alternatives do I have about the same now that the breakup has happened? If there is a chance, can I go back to that person to get some mental closure? If there is a chance, can I talk to that person once as to how am I feeling and do I think that is going to make me feel better? Right. So these are the points that need to be addressed for the first one. And then often it happens so that you're moving on with your life, but you haven't really moved on, and that person doesn't care. Quick to make assumptions as humans, aren't we? That person doesn't care. I'm the one who is crying, I'm the one sacrificing everything. But we assume or we tend to believe for a fact that we know that how this person is going to be coping. But at the same time, there is a flip side to this, right? Okay, there is a possibility that the person is doing fine. Flip side to this is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how sure I am about this particular thought of mine. How do I know that that person is coping well? How do I know that that person doesn't care anymore? Right? Question yourself, talk to a friend or someone who, who has been involved in all of this. Right? There are times when we have mutual friends, especially when it comes down to partners, which is if you're married and if you've gotten a divorce, or if you're in a relationship and broken up, or even if you're friends and not being able to talk. Speak to a mutual friend, understand that, okay, this is how I'm feeling. Do you have any idea about this? At the same time, before you reach out to someone, please ask if they are in a space to even hear you or talk to you at this point in time, because most of us are going through similar kind of scenarios. So to whoever has asked this, does this answer your question?
I guess yes. Rushika, would you like to add to this answer? Anything?
I honestly think I don't want to derail with any unsolicited advice, but yeah, I think what she said definitely makes sense. And yeah, just trust people and talk to them. Don't keep everything to yourself, is what I would say.
All right. So one technical question I would like to ask is usually therapists do recommend some kind of drugs or medication, and people do tend to get addicted to that. What are your views on that? Like, is there a myth breaker for that, Vishwa?
So medication cannot be recommended by therapists. There has to be a
Yes.
psychiatrist involved. In any case, if there is any therapist recommending, so as therapists, we do hold knowledge of what kind of medicines are prescribed and what effects can it have on the brain and your emotions. But otherwise, again, it's not about dependency. Uh, Second thing, before, there are times when even if you go to a psychiatrist, they may put you on medication, but again, it's a team of professionals working together. So please even also reach out to a therapist to know more about, okay, do I even need medication in the first place?
Yeah.
Extreme cases of depression, I am feeling depressed since the last 1 month, suicidal ideations, every, like, you tick off every particular criteria of
Major depressive or
major depression. That's when, okay, I need to go to a psychiatrist to help me uplift those feel good chemicals. But again, that can only do 50% of the work for you. The
yeah.
other 50% will have to be through therapy or counseling.
And I would also say, just to add to Vishwa's point, like when it's serious diseases like schizophrenia, or when it's like PTSD or MDD or something, is when we know, when a team determines that yeah, this person would definitely need medication to balance out certain chemicals, or in their brain, I would say, is when we would recommend it. But beforehand, any therapist, psychologist, or psychiatrist is always going to try to heal you without, to help you heal without medication, rather. Yeah.
Okay.
And about the addictive nature, I am not that much aware, but I guess it's just because the things that they are composed of, I would say, Vishwa.
Also, I think you need to have regular check-ins
Yeah.
with your psychiatrist, because based on your symptoms, there are modifications, right? In the level of dosage. They also failed the medicines. Again, as therapist, if there's a client who's coming to me and is on medication, as a therapist, it's going to be my duty to get in touch with the psychiatrist and know more about why the XYZ
Yeah.
medication was prescribed. Yeah.
Okay, so one interesting question has come up. If one stress makes you tensed, and in that tensed mood, if you recollect the other stress too and have a complete breakdown, what to do to avoid these thoughts and cope with these emotions?
That's like everyone in the lockdown right now.
It's like already काफी stress थे उसमें से ये lockdown का stress बहुत बढ़ गया अभी.
हमें भी है.
I think in such cases, it's important to first ground yourself. Don't go into firstly meditation cannot work here.
Yeah.
Journaling cannot work here. All you can do is just to ground yourself in that moment. And by grounding, what I mean is stabilizing. Movement can help. So playing on a tune and just rhythmically moving with it. Breathing can be combined with a whole lot of body exercise. So you can also use different kind of textures like cotton, smelling camphor, um, using an ice cube to just clench your fist, like you put it in the center of your fist and you clench it. Some people even applying Fevicol and letting it dry and scraping it off is a great grounding exercise. For some people who are very much in tune with their breath, that is, who have been meditating for a while now, can use meditation as a grounding tool, but otherwise it may backfire very badly because it may aggravate these concerns. Once you're stabilized, how to cope with these emotions then would be you're doing something that you enjoy, eating a piece of chocolate, eating a bit of sugar, because why this is happening is because again your feel good chemicals in the brain are going down, they are dropping. So even extreme sensations like splashing ice cold water on your face really helps you cope in that moment. Once you're stabilized, write, meditate, talk to a friend, everything will then start working.
Yeah, it's more put in simple terms. Grounding is just like instead of being in your thoughts, like coming back to reality. So that's why you put the ice cube or scrape the Fevicol so that you feel you're present right now in the moment. Instead of just rushing on your thoughts of trains and being like, oh my God, what is going to happen next? What is happening now? What will happen? And obviously we've all been there. So yeah, I would say. What I generally do is I do like these, which I think you might know, like just 4 exercises, like smell 4 things, touch 3 things, taste 2 things, and smell 1 thing. And by the time I do this, I start feeling like myself again, and I'm just basically out of my thoughts. And yeah, so you could try that. It's really simple. Like just when you feel like your thoughts are so fast, like just take a deep breath and try to touch 4 things. Just basically activate your senses and smell 3 things, taste 2 things, and I forgot. I think I screwed
So
it up.
it's see 5 things, feel 4 things, hear
Yeah.
3 things, and then there's taste 2 things and smell
And
one
smell
thing.
1 thing. Yeah.
Wow,
So
I was never aware of such techniques. The only thing which I used to do so far is go and watch a movie whenever, yeah.
yeah,
So
whatever works. Yeah.
it works. So one question which has come up is interesting. What should one do if a person misses their own self that they were in the past? Rishika, you want to take this up? You moved from India to US. You might be missing a lot of things.
I miss the food. I'm not even gonna lie, first and foremost. But yeah, I would say just prioritize, understand what is important to you, understand the consequences of what you would be giving up, or what uh, would it be when you pursue something or achieve something, and think it through, discuss it out with people who love you and support you, and just take the decision. I mean, that if you keep on thinking about it, you just think about it. You need to act on it, I would say, first and foremost. And I think Vishwa can answer it technically better.
I'm sorry, I lost the question. Can you
So the
repeat?
question is, what should one do if a person misses their own self that they were in the past?
Write a letter to yourself.
Okay.
I think that works brilliant. I'm writing a letter to my, and I think this is for someone who had asked a question about what if this past experiences are acting up in the present. Write a letter to yourself. What about the past experience is still holding you back? So it could be a person, it could be an object, it could be a thing, it could be you yourself. Forgiveness plays a very important role here. And also, if I'm feeling anxious, write a letter to your anxiety. What are you trying to tell this anxiety? Separate it from you. Remember, this is not you. This is a person who's away or apart from you. So you can consider it like that.
So extending that question, when you miss yourself or when we talk about you cannot get rid of toxic people in your life, it's just because you are afraid of the loneliness that you might slip into because you chuck out few people from your life, or when you miss yourself, there's a lot of loneliness. How do one deal with that, Vishwa?
Uh, when you think like, okay, my current friends and family, everyone around me is toxic. Using the term everyone to highlight that things never exist at an extreme. Um, there'll at least be one person who is there who you can reach out to. In such cases, it gets very important to draw your boundaries as to, yes, this person is toxic for me. I realize, but here are my boundaries. I'm not going to cross them and interact more than what is required with them. Let me create a support system for me that is, even if it's two people, I know for a fact that that support system is going to come to my play. And that's when a therapist also plays a very important role.
Rishika?
Yeah, I think everything she said, these are more on the lines of clinical, I would say. And yeah, I definitely agree with what she said. I mean, definitely, it does hold us back, as you said, the loneliness and the fear of loss and everything. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
All right. So before I move on to next question from the audience, and to the audience, please feel free to ask any more questions. If you want to keep it confidential, send it to me privately. Rest assured that it will remain confidential. So for
Uh,
next question, yeah,
I
yeah,
have a question that someone has sent.
yeah. Even I have. So
Okay.
before I take that up, a question which I had to ask was, how do you people, I know you are a therapist, but how do you deal with your own personal stress? Or which therapist do you consult? Rishika, go first, please.
So I would say just basically, as I said, like grounding techniques and prioritizing and understanding just one simple thing that it will get better. Nothing is permanent.
But have you had a thought of, okay, should I consult a therapist or no now?
Oh, lots of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have considered it definitely. Yeah, definitely. In fact, that was what also got me interested in the first place in psychology, like understanding how the human behavior works, or why does one behave the way they do, or what are the reasons, what are the symptoms, and what is going on basically. So there have definitely been times, but yeah, as I said, I do love meditation, and I also like just listening to calming sounds whenever I feel like the world is, messing around me. I would just go on YouTube and literally just put on calming music and just try to ground myself and calm myself down. And,
uh,
yeah.
Vishwa?
For me, it would be doing some art, and that could include music, dance, reaching out to my support, my pillars, and I think I have two, three of them here. Um, so yeah, I think very grateful for, I think my family for being there through the thicks and the thins, and at the same time, journaling has really helped me, and meditation very recently that I've started believing in this idea of meditation. So um, Yeah, I think meditation also helps. So prioritizing self-care for about 1 hour every day is a mandate. There is no negotiating that.
Right. So there's this question from the audience which is, if you are short-tempered and someone uses provocation with you for their advantage, what are the coping mechanisms that can be used for defense? Vishwa?
Right. Um, I'm just reading the question again.
Yeah. All right.
Um, so, when someone is using provocation with you, or when someone, what are the coping mechanisms that can be used for defense? Okay. When you recognize that okay, someone is being provocative or someone is really reacting, firstly, take some time out, bring it to that person's notice that hey, whatever this is happening or whatever you're saying, I'm feeling XYZ about it. So I'm feeling hurt about it. I'm feeling disappointed with it. Would you mind if we have this conversation after some time, where the two of us have actually taken some time to think about this rather than responding in the moment? So take that time out, and again, defense. When you use defense, again, you are starting that spiral of, unhealthy emotions, where you then start projecting, where you then start rationalizing. To avoid all of that, instead, I would really suggest if that person is a close one, just take some time off to um, think about it. Think about how you're feeling. Think about what are your thoughts about this particular situation, and you can get back to that person. Also, disclaimer in such situations: please do not have conversations on WhatsApp. Ridiculous way of communicating. Please get on a call or meet and talk.
So be more expressive when you want to resolve
Yeah.
this issue. All right. So we are ending this session. Last question from the audience. Okay, there's a follow-up question on the same question which you just answered. How to keep presence of mind in such situation?
Um, which is what I mean by taking some time off.
Yeah.
So the minute you take a time out, you're allowing yourself to process how you're feeling. You're allowing yourself to think about your thoughts, and in such situations, talk in I language and not you. So you are not understanding. Instead of saying that, use sentences or statements like, I feel I am not being understood. Right? So use first person talks and not second person. So yeah, that would be the answer.
All right, guys.
I'm
We
sorry,
have
Parth, but
overstretched. Yeah,
there
I
are
know, I know.
questions
Yeah, there are questions.
that
Like
I'm
we have
getting.
overstretched. So last question which we would take up is, if one had bad past and thinking of what will happen in future haunts you, how to deal with this?
I'm thinking of what will happen in future. How to say, okay. Uh, if this is something that again, past needs to be resolved in the now, the future is very much in our hands then. Yeah. So think about it like, if I'm thinking about past impacting the future, means I'm not doing anything about it in the present, because how I choose to feel and how I choose to think is pretty much in my control. And that, if I choose to resolve in the now, is definitely not going to impact me in the future.
Uh,
Parth, I will have to take this question.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Okay, yeah. Take it up, please, please, please. Take
um,
it up.
which are the actions that points towards the particular person, that a particular person is planning to commit suicide? Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Very important. Yeah.
I think these are really important red flags, where a person is reaching out to you and saying, hey, I don't feel like doing this, canceling plans repeatedly, shutting the self down. So, despite you asking 10 times as to, would you like to share? Would you like to talk? The person is still saying, no, I don't think anyone will understand me. Like, I don't feel like there's any purpose only to life now. मतलब ये करके भी क्या होगा? These are the signs, especially when you know that yes, this person has had a history of low phases very often. So please check in with that person as to how they are feeling, um, rather than assuming कि यार इसका हर बार का है.
Vishwa, I would also say if you could also, add like what are some signs of passive suicidal thoughts or some things that indicate that passively also this person is thinking about it. That would be like
Yeah, sure.
a
So,
good.
especially when you're in a gathering, when you're especially with your friends, and you see that person is zoning out, you have to repeat to them multiple times, hey, are you here with us? Or when that person says, yaar, doesn't feel like smiling, doesn't feel like, even being a part of your day to day chores, like taking a bath, brushing your teeth, right? These are like minimal indications that, okay, that person is not doing well. When you know that, okay, this person was so good at sports, this person used to enjoy reading, this person used to enjoy interacting with people, and now suddenly that person is shunning and all of these pleasurable things away. Another indication that this person could have suicidal ideations. Please don't assume that they may. Don't use the word suicide. Use the word, do you feel like ending your life? Do you get this thought about ending your life? So let's keep it
Yep.
more subtle rather than saying suicide करने का मन हो रहा है.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
definitely not a thing to joke about. And yeah, I mean, just reach out to people and keep on checking on your loved ones and your friends and your family also. It's very important. So, yeah,
Yeah.
just this.
So I guess we have overstretched and we need to end this. Before that, audience, any more questions? Please feel to reach out to them. Your other Instagram ID, please reach out to them directly. They are happy to take up all your questions. Again, uh, you can follow us. You can DM us the question. Udan will help you connect to them. We are always there. And thank you for being such a wonderful audience. We could have gone on forever. There were amazing, interesting questions. And Vishwa, Rishika, thank you so much. Probably I have had so many eye openers in past 1 hour. Thank you. And you have been great. You have taken up all the questions positively, and you say no things automatically start fixing up when you're in front of a therapist. So past 1 hour, I was like all positive vibes. So thank you so much. And with this, we'll end this session. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Stay safe and stay connected. Yep. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye. Thank you.